Hello everybody, today we are at the Joslin Institute for Sustainable Communities. Do you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and how the Institute got started?
Sure. Well, my name is Cecil Stewart. I came to Nebraska from Texas in 1973 to be Dean of the College of Architecture. I was Dean at the College of Architecture for 27 years. At the latter part of my tenure in that position, I became very concerned through my background in community development about the difficulty of having good exploratory discussions on sustainable development. And in 1996, I petitioned the Board of Regents to allow the college to form a within the university nonprofit organization, and we called it the Joslin Institute for Sustainable Communities. That name came from the fact that concurrent with forming the organization, we made an agreement with the state of Nebraska to manage the Joslin estate in Omaha, to be there rent-free for the exchange of being the manager of the property for the state. That was the beginning, and we now have our headquarters here in Lincoln.
Okay, so how would your institute define sustainability?
Well, the sustainability language originated from a commission of the United Nations in the 1980s. And they put out to the public that sustainability should be defined by a balance between environmental issues, economic issues, and social issues. About that time, well, a bit later, in 2005, we were approached by the planning department in Omaha to do a study of 16 counties around Omaha and the growth management issues that could be confronting the environment in the future. What we quickly discovered was that those three domains of environment, economics, and social were insufficient study points to arrive at sustainable definitions and sustainable enterprises. We, through that study, added 2 domains to those 3: technologies and public policy.
Wow, that's really interesting. So what does it mean for a community to be sustainable? I know you talk about the 5 different aspects of it, but when a community is truly sustainable, what does that mean?
Well, when a community is truly sustainable, it means it has a character of its own. It is safe. It is healthy. It has jobs. It is economically viable. And it's a place that you would want to live in and be a part of.
There is a connection between food insecurity and sustainability. Could you describe that more in depth for us? I know you talk about, making sure that we have affordable housing and food in communities, but what is the link between sustainability and food insecurity?
Well, if we're insecure in where our food comes from and how accessible it is, we have neighborhoods of people that are constantly at the edge of poverty and impoverishedness. And so nutrition, good health is vital. The access, and then when you begin to think about access, that pulls you into the public transportation systems and where food stores, food markets are located. And it also then leads you into the quality of housing and the home style life that people in various neighborhoods have. And we hear these days a lot of conversation about so-called food deserts, meaning that there is an area within a city that there simply is not a grocery store, There simply is no way, no good way for the residents to get to an existing grocery store. And you have these environments of just lack of quality food.
So what are some potential sustainable practices that could be implemented around food insecurity in communities? Is there a way to mitigate food waste, or just more support for those who are food insecure? Yeah. What would you say?
Well, as in almost every aspect of sustainable development work, partnerships are key among and between organizations, production people, marketing and markets. And so one of the early potential for overcoming the food security issue is partnerships with the public schools, partnerships with the health care industry, nursing homes, hospitals. These are major tables, if you will, that prepare food for in-house consumers. And so what we want to be able to do is help the Lincoln Public School system and their food service people become good wholesale consumers of the food that's actually being produced, and making that linkage. So the interaction, collaboration, partnerships is a first step. Secondly, being careful about locating potential new markets. We are projecting, and as a matter of fact, we about 2 years ago did a feasibility study of Pershing Auditorium as the potential major food market for Lincoln. And it's in the heart of a lot of walkable traffic between state government, university, downtown employees. And now with the new focus on the South Downtown neighborhood, it's walkable for the people there now and in the future. And it's on the major bike path crossing town. It has a lot of locational characteristics that would forestall any further central city food insecurity. And we're hopeful that eventually we can convince the politicians and the city government to make use of that property that's now just vacant.
Are there things that you've noticed that we are not doing that we could be doing?
Well, the first prerequisite to doing the right thing is having a conscious attitude about conservation. Conservation of your place, conservation of your resources, conservation of the environment. If that exists as a private or public attitude, we have an opportunity to help foster that into real projects. We've developed a system that we call Sustainometrics, and I and a colleague from the College of Architecture have published a book under that heading. It gives the community decision leaders a way to think comprehensively about all 5 of those domains simultaneously. We've all grown up, and I blame the university and public education system. It's not going to change. It's a wonderful system, but it's a system built on silos. It's a system built on engineering, architecture, philosophy, psychology, economics, and we learn to think and act that way. We are not forced to learn to think interdependently and interactively in solving problems. This system for those who have this conscious attitude, would force themselves and their colleagues to make decisions based upon the balance characteristics among and between those 5 domains.
What's your advice for our participants who want to get involved in sustainable efforts?
I would first challenge them to think about, from a community perspective, what gives pleasure to their life. What aspects of living in a particular place become value priorities for them personally. And I would try to get them to share those experiences. It's kind of like I mentioned, taking an assets inventory of the whole community. Boil that down to a family or to even an individual. Take an asset inventory of values and social concerns. And then help them understand that whatever those values have been based on, some may be, say, I want to become wealthy, period. Well, it's in a democratic society, it's a free country, that's a good value. But it's only one of the domains. And I think we have to help individuals understand that whatever their goals are, they're most likely not going to be entirely successful unless they have an altruistic attitude about those other 4 domains. If an individual is more socially conscious, you can't live or build a sustainable community solely on social connections. It has to respect the environment and has to have an economic base that makes it thrive and people have jobs. And so helping individuals like us who've learned and grown up in the silos understand that we need to do our best to connect to every other silo that exists if we want to be leaders of sustainable development.